Think about standing at the edge of an uncharted continent thousands of years ago. No GPS, no detailed maps, not even a reliable compass to guide you. Yet somehow, against all odds, ancient explorers crossed oceans, navigated deserts, and climbed mountain ranges that seemed impossible to conquer. How did they do it? The answer lies in a series of brilliant, often overlooked inventions, ingenious tools, and techniques that transformed the unknown into the familiar. These weren't just gadgets, they were the keys that unlocked the world. Today, we're traveling back in time to uncover 25 ancient travel technologies that changed exploration forever, turning perilous journeys into epic triumphs of human ingenuity. Picture this: a Phoenician trader setting sail across the Mediterranean with nothing but the stars to guide them, or a Silk Road merchant braving the go-by desert with a simple yet revolutionary device strapped to their camel. These weren't just adventures, they were revolutions in motion, powered by innovations we still marvel at today. From the sturdy sandals that allowed Roman legions to march thousands of miles to the astrolabes that helped sailors chart unseen waters, every invention on our list tells a story of curiosity, courage, and sheer brilliance. These weren't just tools, they were the foundation of globalization, connecting cultures and continents long before the modern world even existed. What's truly astonishing is how many of these ancient breakthroughs still influence how we explore today. The same principles that guided Polynesian voyagers across the Pacific are embedded in modern navigation systems. The roads built by ancient empires became the blueprints for highways that now span the globe. This isn't just history, it's the hidden backbone of our modern world, waiting to be rediscovered. So whether you're a history buff, a travel enthusiast, or just someone who loves a good story of human triumph, you're about to see exploration in a whole new light. Get ready to meet the unsung heroes of ancient travel, the inventions that made the impossible possible. Long before wooden ships dominated the seas, ancient civilizations mastered river travel with an even simpler material reeds. Picture the Nile thousands of years ago, where Egyptian traders glided effortlessly on boats made from tightly bound papyrus stalks. These vessels were more than just floating platforms. They were feats of engineering, designed to flex with the currents rather than fight them. The secret lay in their construction bundles of reeds lashed together with rope, creating a lightweight yet surprisingly sturdy craft. Unlike heavy wooden boats that could sink if damaged, reed boats stayed afloat even when waterlogged, making them perfect for navigating unpredictable river systems. But the brilliance of reed boats wasn't limited to Egypt. Over in Mesopotamia, similar vessels carried goods along the Tigris and Euphrates, connecting bustling trade networks. Even the famous explorer Thor Heyerdahl proved their seaworthiness in modern times by sailing a reconstructed reed boat across the Atlantic. Imagine that, a design so effective it could cross oceans millennia after its invention. What made these boats truly revolutionary was their accessibility. Reeds grew abundantly along riverbanks, meaning almost any community could build them without specialized tools or scarce resources. This wasn't just travel technology, it was democratized exploration, turning local waterways into highways of commerce and cultural exchange. And here's something fascinating. The principles behind reed boats still influence modern marine design. Engineers today study their flexibility for inspiration in creating vessels that can withstand rough waters. It's a reminder that sometimes the oldest solutions are the most enduring. From the Nile to the open ocean, these humble boats set the stage for humanity's greatest voyages, proving that adventure begins not with complexity, but with creativity. The humble reed boat was revolutionary for river travel, but when ancient mariners set their sights on the open ocean, they needed something far more robust. Enter the planked wooden ship. Picture the Phoenicians, master shipbuilders of the ancient Mediterranean, who transformed seafaring by crafting vessels with overlapping wooden planks sealed with tar and resin. This wasn't just an upgrade, it was a total game changer. Unlike reed boats which flexed with the water, these sturdy hulls could withstand the punishing waves of the open sea, allowing sailors to venture farther than ever before. What made these ships truly remarkable was their versatility. Phoenician traders loaded their holds with purple dye, glass, and cedar wood, turning the Mediterranean into a bustling highway of commerce. But they carried more than just goods. These ships became floating bridges for ideas, spreading alphabets, art, and religious beliefs across 3 continents. Imagine a single vessel docking in Egypt, Greece, and Carthage, its crew swapping not just spices but entire worldviews. This was globalization in its earliest form, all thanks to a few cleverly fastened planks. The secret to their success lay in the details. Phoenician shipbuilders used mortise and tenon joints, interlocking wooden pieces like puzzle tabs without relying on nails. This technique created ships so durable they could weather storms and last for decades. Even today, archaeologists marvel at the precision of these ancient craftsmen. Their designs were so advanced that Roman ships centuries later still copied their basic structure. But perhaps the greatest testament to their ingenuity was the Phoenicians' most daring feat, sailing beyond the Mediterranean's familiar shores. Venturing past the Strait of Gibraltar, they braved the Atlantic's treacherous currents to reach tin mines in Britain and amber forests in the Baltic. These voyages weren't just about trade, they redefined the limits of the known world. Every plank in those hulls carried the spirit of exploration, proving that with the right technology, even the horizon wasn't a boundary. And here's the twist: modern shipbuilders still study Phoenician techniques. The same principles of hull strength and weight distribution appear in everything from cargo ships to cruise liners. It's a reminder that some innovations don't just change their era, they echo across millennia. From the first overlapping planks to the container ships of today, this ancient breakthrough didn't just carry cargo, it carried civilization itself forward. Now imagine trying to cross vast oceans with nothing but a square sail, powerful when the wind blows directly behind you, but utterly useless when it shifts. That was the challenge ancient sailors faced until one brilliant innovation changed everything: the lateen sail. Unlike its rigid square counterpart, this triangular marvel could pivot and catch wind from almost any direction, turning unpredictable breezes into reliable propulsion. Born in the Indian Ocean around the 2nd century, this wasn't just an upgrade, it was a revolution in motion, allowing sailors to tack against the wind for the first time in history. Arab traders were the first to recognize its potential, harnessing the lateen sail to dominate trade routes from East Africa to Indonesia. Picture their sleek D-house slicing through monsoon winds, their sails angled perfectly to ride gusts that would leave square-rigged ships dead in the water. But the real breakthrough came when Mediterranean sailors adopted the design. Suddenly, voyages that once took weeks could be completed in days, and explorers could venture farther with less fear of being stranded by shifting winds. The secret lay in the sail's elegant simplicity. Mounted at an angle on a long yardarm, it acted like an airplane wing, creating lift that pulled ships forward even when the wind seemed against them. This meant no more waiting months for favorable winds, a freedom that changed exploration forever. Portuguese caravels, equipped with lateen sails, could navigate Africa's treacherous coastlines and even cross the Atlantic, opening doors to continents Europeans never knew existed. What's astonishing is how enduring this ancient technology proved. Modern sailboats still use lateen-inspired rigging for maneuverability, and the same principles govern wind-powered innovations today. From the D-house of the Indian Ocean to the racing yachts of the America's Cup, the lateen sail's legacy is woven into the fabric of maritime history. It wasn't just a tool, it was the key that unlocked the world's oceans, proving that sometimes the most profound revolutions come not from complexity, but from a single, brilliant angle. While lateen sails gave ships newfound freedom on the open water, ancient explorers still faced one critical challenge: knowing exactly where they were. That's where the Astrolabe stepped in, a handheld marvel that transformed celestial navigation. Picture a sailor standing on a swaying deck at night, holding up this brass disc engraved with intricate markings, aligning it with the North Star to calculate their position. This wasn't just a tool, it was a lifeline, turning the vast, trackless ocean into a grid that could be measured and mastered. The Astrolabe's origins stretch back to ancient Greece, where thinkers like Hipparchus first mapped the star's movements. But it was Islamic scholars who perfected the design during the golden age of Islam, adding layers of precision that made it indispensable. By measuring the angle between the horizon and celestial bodies like the Sun or Polaris, sailors could determine their latitude, a breakthrough that meant no more guessing based on waves or seabirds. Suddenly, voyages became predictable and trade routes expanded dramatically. What made the Astrolabe revolutionary wasn't just its accuracy but its versatility. By swapping out engraved plates called tympans, navigators could adapt it for different latitudes, making it useful from the Mediterranean to the Indian Ocean. Some versions even included astrological charts or prayer timings, a testament to its role as both a scientific instrument and a cultural artifact. Portuguese explorers like Vasco da Gama relied on astrolabes to sail around Africa's Cape of Good Hope, while Arab traders used them to cross the Arabian Sea with confidence. Yet the real genius of the astrolabe lay in its simplicity. Unlike fragile compasses that could fail or maps that became outdated, this device depended only on the stars, a fixed reference point that never changed. Modern GPS might seem worlds apart, but the principle remains the same. Celestial navigation paved the way for satellite precision. Even today, astronauts train with astrolabe-inspired tools as a backup for electronic systems, proving that some ancient technologies are too reliable to fade away. From guiding D-house through monsoons to helping European explorers chart new continents, the astrolabe didn't just measure angles, it measured human ambition. Every calculation brought the unknown within reach, turning fear of the open sea into the courage to sail beyond the horizon. And in that way, this ancient device did more than navigate waters, it navigated history itself. The astrolabe gave sailors the stars as their guide, but what happened when clouds rolled in or storms obscured the night sky? That's when humanity's next great navigational leap emerged: the magnetic compass. Born in ancient China during the Han Dynasty around 200 BC, this unassuming tool would redefine exploration forever. Picture a spoon-shaped lodestone floating on a bronze plate, its handle always pointing south, not just a curiosity, but the world's first reliable indicator of direction, unaffected by weather or time of day. At first, Chinese diviners used these south-pointing fish for fortune-telling, aligning buildings with cosmic harmony. But by the time of the Song dynasty, sailors had repurposed them into something far more revolutionary. Unlike star-based navigation, which required clear skies and complex calculations, the compass worked in fog, rain, or total darkness, Suddenly, ships could maintain their course through the fiercest storms or the most featureless seas. The impact was immediate. Chinese junks ventured as far as East Africa, Arab traders crossed the Indian Ocean with newfound confidence, and European explorers like Marco Polo marveled at this magic that made the unknown navigable. What made the compass truly transformative was its simplicity. A magnetized needle floating in water or balanced on a pivot required no expertise to interpret. Just a glance told you where north lay. This democratized long-distance travel, turning what was once the domain of elite navigators into something any sailor could use. Venetian merchant ships adopted it to maintain trade routes during winter, while Polynesian voyagers combined it with traditional star navigation to settle remote Pacific islands. The compass didn't just point the way, it leveled the playing field of exploration. Yet the compass's brilliance wasn't just in its function, but in the doors it unlocked. By providing constant orientation, it allowed cartographers to create more accurate maps, which in turn fueled further exploration. The age of discovery, Columbus, Magellan, Zheng He, rested on this humble tool's shoulders. Modern GPS might seem light years ahead, but the principle remains identical. Reliable direction finding unlocks the world. Even today, every smartphone compass app traces its lineage back to that floating lodestone spoon. From guiding treasure fleets across the South China Sea to steering Viking longships through Arctic mists, the compass did more than point north, it pointed humanity toward a new era of connection. And in that way, this ancient invention didn't just change travel, it changed our relationship with the planet itself. The Roman road network wasn't just a collection of paths, it was the superhighway system of the ancient world, a sprawling web of over 250,000 miles of engineered perfection. Picture a legionary marching from the misty highlands of Scotland to the sun-baked deserts of Syria, his sandals pounding the same meticulously laid stones the entire way. These roads weren't dirt trails or meandering animal tracks. They were feats of civil engineering so advanced that some are still in use today. The secret. A layered construction method that would make modern road crews nod in respect. First, workers dug deep trenches, then packed them with crushed stone for drainage. Next came layers of sand and gravel, topped with interlocking flat stones angled slightly to shed rainwater. The result, a surface so durable it could withstand centuries of chariots, armies, and merchant caravans. But the brilliance of Roman roads wasn't just in their durability, it was in their relentless directness. Surveyors used an instrument called a groma to plot dead straight lines across hills, valleys, and rivers, refusing to let geography dictate their path. If a mountain stood in the way, they carved through it. If a marsh stretched ahead, they built elevated causeways. This wasn't just about efficiency, it was a statement of control. Every straight mile proclaimed Rome's power to reshape the land itself, and the impact was staggering. Troops could march 25 miles a day, reaching rebellions before they spread. Fresh oysters from Brittany arrived in Rome's markets still alive. News traveled faster than anywhere else in the ancient world, binding the empire together like nothing before. What's often overlooked is how these roads transformed exploration into routine. For the first time, a merchant in Gaul could plan a trip to Egypt with reliable estimates of time and distance, thanks to mile markers placed every 1,000 paces. The roads even had rest stops, mansions spaced a day's travel apart, offering stables, baths, and lodging. This wasn't just infrastructure, it was a hospitality network that turned perilous journeys into manageable trips. The legacy of Roman roads echoes in surprising ways. Modern highway engineers still study their drainage techniques to prevent potholes. The Appian Way's route out of Rome became the blueprint for Europe's first major highways. Even the phrase, "all roads lead to Rome," holds truth. Their system was designed to funnel everything back to the empire's heart. But perhaps the most enduring lesson is this: exploration isn't just about venturing into the unknown. Sometimes it's about building a path so solid that others can follow. The Romans didn't just discover their empire, they engineered it into existence, one stone at a time. Before engines roared or wheels turned with mechanical precision, the fastest way to traverse land was with the thunder of hooves and the rattle of wheels, the horse-drawn chariot. This wasn't just transportation, it was the Formula One of the ancient world, a dazzling fusion of speed, engineering, and raw power. Picture the sun glinting off gilded chariots as Egyptian pharaohs raced across the desert, or Hittite warriors maneuvering with lethal precision on the battlefield. These lightweight, two-wheeled vehicles could reach speeds of up to 35 miles per hour, unthinkable for foot travelers, turning days of journeying into mere hours. The secret to their speed lay in their minimalist design. Unlike heavy carts, chariots were built for agility, with spoked wheels that reduced weight and a flexible axle system that absorbed shocks. Egyptian craftsmen used imported cedar from Lebanon, crafting frames so light a single person could lift them, yet strong enough to withstand the chaos of war. But the real innovation was in the harness. Early designs used a throat and girth strap that choked horses under strain, limiting their power. Then came the revolutionary yoke collar, a padded wooden bar distributing weight across the shoulders, allowing horses to pull harder without suffocating. This small tweak unleashed their full potential, transforming chariots into unstoppable force multipliers. Chariots didn't just change travel, they reshaped societies. In Mesopotamia, they became mobile archery platforms, turning battles into high-speed skirmishes. The Hyksos invasion of Egypt succeeded largely because they brought chariot warfare to a culture still reliant on foot soldiers. But their influence extended far beyond combat. Royal messengers in Persia used chariots to relay orders across empires, while Greek athletes raced them for glory in the Olympic Games. Even trade routes benefited goods could now move swiftly between cities, with chariots serving as the ancient equivalent of express couriers. What's often overlooked is how chariots democratized speed. While only elites could afford them initially, their military value spurred mass production. By the time of the Roman Empire, chariot factories employed thousands, and racing factions like the Blues and Greens became ancient celebrities. The Circus Maximus in Rome held 250,000 spectators, more than any modern stadium, all cheering for their favorite charioteer. This wasn't just sport, it was a cultural obsession, proof of humanity's eternal love affair with velocity. Yet the chariot's greatest legacy might be how it paved the way for future innovations. The same principles of lightweight construction and efficient weight distribution echo in modern vehicle design. From bicycles to sports cars, the quest for speed and maneuverability began with those ancient wooden frames. And in that sense, every time you buckle into a car or hail a taxi, you're stepping into the spiritual successor of the chariot, a machine that once made the world feel smaller, faster, and full of possibility. Think about clinging to a galloping horse without anything to brace your feet, just gripping with your knees, desperately trying to stay upright. That was the reality for riders across the ancient world until one simple invention changed everything: the stirrup. At first glance, it seems unremarkable, just a metal or wooden loop hanging from a saddle. But this small addition revolutionized horseback riding, turning it from a precarious balancing act into a stable platform for travel, trade, and warfare. The stirrup's origins trace back to the nomadic tribes of Central Asia, where riders spent their lives on horseback. Picture a Scythian warrior racing across the steppes, feet secured in leather loops, his hands free to fire arrows with deadly accuracy. By the time stirrups reached Europe around the 8th century, they transformed medieval knights into unstoppable forces. Suddenly, a rider could stand in the saddle, delivering crushing blows with a lance or swinging a sword without fear of toppling off. This wasn't just an upgrade, it redefined combat, giving rise to the era of heavy cavalry and the armored knight. But the stirrup's impact wasn't limited to battle. For travelers, it meant long journeys became far less exhausting. No more leg cramps from hours of gripping a horse's sides. Riders could relax slightly, shifting weight into the stirrups to ease fatigue. Merchants could cover greater distances without dismounting, while messengers could maintain speed for longer stretches. The stirrup effectively turned the horse into an extension of the rider's body, creating a seamless partnership between human and animal. What made the stirrup so ingenious was its deceptive simplicity. Unlike complex machines requiring maintenance, this was a low-tech solution with monumental consequences. Even today, modern equestrians use stirrups nearly identical to those from 1,000 years ago, proving some designs are timeless. From Mongol conquerors who built an empire on horseback to European knights who shaped feudal society, the stirrup didn't just change how people rode, it changed how they moved through history. And here's something fascinating. This humble device may have altered social structures as much as military ones. With mounted knights now dominant in warfare, the feudal system grew stronger, tying land ownership to military service. The stirrup, in a way, helped shape the medieval world order. It's a reminder that sometimes the smallest inventions carry the weight of civilizations on their shoulders, or in this case, in their loops of leather and iron. Imagine traversing endless dunes under a scorching sun, where shifting sands erase any trail and water is scarcer than gold. Now picture doing it with hundreds of pounds of salt, gold, or textiles strapped to your back. This was the impossible challenge Saharan traders faced until an ingenious solution emerged: the camel saddle. More than just a seat for riders, this specialized design transformed the desert from a deadly barrier into a bustling highway of commerce. Unlike horse saddles that distribute weight along the spine, the camel saddle's genius lay in its wraparound structure, cradling loads across the animal's hump without causing injury. North African Berbers perfected two distinct versions. The northern saddle featured a high wooden frame that allowed riders to sit elevated, surveying the horizon for threats or landmarks. But the real breakthrough was the southern saddle, a padded, cushion-like design that could support staggering loads. Traders could strap up to 400 pounds of salt blocks or ivory tusks onto a single dromedary, turning these ships of the desert into freight carriers unmatched by any other animal. The difference was dramatic. Where horses would collapse from dehydration within days, camels could travel over a week without water, their wide feet gliding effortlessly over sand that would swallow carts whole. The impact rippled across continents. Suddenly, salt from Taoudeni could reach Timbuktu, where it was traded ounce for ounce with gold from West Africa's empires. Caravans of 1,000 camels stretched for miles, crossing the Sahara in 40-day treks that connected Mediterranean ports with sub-Saharan markets. This wasn't just trade, it was cultural alchemy. Along these routes, Islam spread southward, while gold flowed north to mint European currencies. The saddle became the linchpin of the trans-Saharan network, enabling exchanges that shaped economies from Senegal to Syria. What's often overlooked is how this innovation intersected with others. Combined with celestial navigation techniques and oasis mapping, the camel saddle allowed traders to establish reliable schedules, unthinkable in such a hostile environment. Mansa Musa's legendary pilgrimage to Mecca with 12,000 attendants and countless pounds of gold, only possible because generations of saddle makers had refined their craft. Even the Silk Road's reach expanded as Arabian camels carried goods between Baghdad and the Mediterranean, bridging gaps that wheeled transport couldn't. Modern engineers still study these saddles for their ergonomic brilliance. The way they redistribute pressure anticipates today's orthopedic designs, proving ancient solutions often outlast empires. From the salt caravans of the Sahara to the frankincense trails of Arabia, this unassuming technology didn't just carry goods, it carried ideas, faith, and the very DNA of cross-continental exchange. And in that way, the camel saddle did more than conquer deserts, it connected civilizations. High in the Andes, where jagged peaks slice through clouds and deep valleys test even the hardiest travelers, the Inca built something extraordinary, a highway system spanning 25,000 miles, rivaling Rome's famed roads in scale and surpassing them in sheer audacity. Picture messengers sprinting along stone-paved paths at 12,000 feet, crossing chasms on swaying grass bridges, and relaying urgent news faster than any horse could gallop. This wasn't just infrastructure, it was the lifeblood of an empire that stretched from modern-day Colombia to Chile, all held together by a network so precise, it functioned like a prehistoric internet. What set the Inca roads apart was their adaptability to brutal terrain. Instead of forcing straight lines like Roman engineers, Inca builders worked with the mountains, carving staircases into cliffsides and cantilevering pathways over sheer drops. Their suspension bridges, woven from iku grass stronger than steel cables, could span 200 feet across roaring rivers, structures so resilient that some were used for centuries. Every element served a purpose. Drainage channels prevented erosion during torrential rains, while stone retaining walls kept landslides at bay. This was engineering without wheels or iron tools, proving that necessity doesn't just mother invention, it masters it. But the true genius lay in the system's human infrastructure. Relay runners called chasquis operated like a living postal service, sprinting between tambos, way stations spaced every 12 miles, to pass quipu-coded messages at speeds of up to 150 miles a day. Fresh fish from the Pacific reached the emperor's table in Cusco within 48 hours, carried uphill by teams of runners in a feat of logistics that would baffle modern couriers. The roads even had rest stops with stocked warehouses, allowing armies to march without slowing to forage. The Inca road system's legacy whispers through modern engineering. Its principles of flexible, terrain-responsive design inspire today's sustainable infrastructure projects, while its emphasis on pedestrian efficiency resonates in urban planning. These paths didn't just connect places, they connected cultures, economies, and ideas across one of Earth's most unforgiving landscapes. And perhaps that's the most astonishing part. An empire built not on conquest alone, but on the simple, revolutionary idea that no mountain should stand in the way of human connection. The Viking Longship wasn't just a boat, it was a masterpiece of maritime engineering, a terrifying silhouette on the horizon that could appear without warning and vanish just as quickly. Picture this, a vessel so sleek it could glide through waves like a blade, yet so shallow it could ride up onto beaches or navigate rivers barely deeper than a man's waist. This was the ultimate hybrid machine of its era, equally at home crossing the stormy North Atlantic as it was creeping up the Seine to sack Paris under cover of darkness. What made the Longship revolutionary was its adaptability. Unlike bulky merchant ships that needed deep harbors, these vessels could land anywhere, no docks required. Their clinker-built hulls, made from overlapping oak planks, flexed with the waves instead of fighting them, absorbing the ocean's blows like a living thing. But the real genius lay in the symmetrical design. With identical bow and stern, longships didn't need to turn around in tight spaces. They could reverse direction instantly, a feature that turned retreating into just another attack strategy. Speed was their weapon. A single square sail, woven from heavy wool and coated with animal fat for waterproofing, could propel them at 14 knots when the wind favored them. But when stealth or precision mattered more, oarsmen, often the same warriors who'd leap ashore swinging axes, could row silently into fjords or up unfamiliar rivers. This wasn't just transportation, it was a predatory evolution, a machine perfectly adapted to its purpose, and oh, how far they ranged. From the frozen coasts of Greenland to the sun-baked shores of Sicily, from the bustling markets of Constantinople to the wild grapes of Vinland, modern-day Newfoundland, Viking longships carried explorers, traders, and raiders farther than any European vessel before them. Leif Erikson's journey to North America around the year 1000 wasn't luck. It was the inevitable result of a technology that laughed at boundaries. Yet the longship's legacy isn't just in the places it reached, but in the world it helped shape. The very word ship in English traces back to the Old Norse skip, a linguistic relic of their dominance. Modern boat builders still study their hydrodynamic efficiency, while the DNA of their design lives on in everything from Arctic fishing boats to high-speed military craft. The Vikings didn't just build ships, they built a blueprint for defying limits, proving that sometimes the key to exploration isn't brute force, but the elegance of perfect design. While Viking longships terrorized the North Atlantic, an entirely different maritime marvel was rising in the east, the Chinese junk. Picture a fleet of these towering vessels under full sail, their crimson battened sails billowing like dragons' wings as they plied the waters from Java to Japan. This wasn't just a ship, it was a floating fortress of innovation, packed with features European sailors wouldn't see for centuries. The junk's most striking feature was its fully battened sails, a lattice of bamboo strips that gave the sail its distinctive curved shape. Unlike European square sails that could only catch wind from behind, these could pivot like Venetian blinds, harnessing breezes from nearly any direction. A skilled crew could adjust them in seconds, making junks the most maneuverable large ships of their era, but the real engineering genius lay below deck. Chinese shipbuilders had perfected watertight compartmentalization, dividing the hull into separate sealed sections, so a breach in one wouldn't sink the entire vessel. This innovation was so effective that when British shipwrights examined a captured junk in the 19th century, they couldn't believe such an ancient design had solved a problem that still plagued Western ships. The junk's flat bottom and retractable rudder allowed it to sail upriver or beach safely during storms, while its massive size, some reached 600 tons, could carry entire villages worth of people and cargo. These technological leaps fueled China's golden age of exploration. Admiral Zheng, his legendary treasure fleets, with their 9-masted junks stretching 400 feet long, made European caravels look like rowboats. Between 1405 and 1433, his armadas reached East Africa, Arabia, and possibly beyond, establishing trade networks that stretched halfway across the globe. A single voyage might carry porcelain, silks, and 30,000 crewmen, a floating city with its own farms and livestock. The junk's influence rippled far beyond its era. Portuguese explorers arriving in Asia quickly adopted its sail technology, blending it with their own designs to create hybrid ships that could tackle global voyages. Even today, traditional junk sails outperform modern rigging in certain conditions, prompting yacht designers to revisit this ancient solution. From the Spice Islands of Indonesia to the docks of medieval Alexandria, the Chinese junk didn't just sail the seas, it rewrote the rules of naval engineering, proving that sometimes the most advanced technology isn't the newest but the wisest. Beneath the scorching sands of Persia's deserts, an ancient engineering miracle turned wastelands into thriving oases, the Kanat System. Imagine a network of underground canals, hand-dug over centuries, tapping into mountain aquifers and guiding water for miles through gravity alone. This wasn't just irrigation, it was a lifeline, transforming barren landscapes into fertile hubs where cities like Yazd and Kerman could flourish. Unlike surface canals that evaporated under the desert sun, these subterranean channels kept water cool and clean, losing barely a drop to the relentless heat. The brilliance of Kanats lay in their precision. Skilled surveyors called mukanis used nothing more than weighted strings and astrolabes to plot gentle downhill slopes, sometimes as slight as 1 foot per mile, ensuring water flowed steadily without erosion. Vertical shafts, spaced like stitches across the desert, provided ventilation and access for maintenance, while the tunnels themselves were reinforced with ceramic rings to prevent collapse. Some kanats stretched over 30 miles, delivering thousands of gallons daily to parched farmlands and caravanserais. This wasn't just infrastructure, it was a secret weapon against the desert's tyranny. But the kanats' impact went beyond survival. By creating reliable water sources along trade routes like the Silk Road, they turned deadly deserts into navigable highways. Merchants could plan journeys knowing exactly where to find fresh water, enabling the flow of spices, silks, and ideas between China and the Mediterranean. The system was so effective that Alexander the Great marveled at it, and Roman engineers later adopted the technology for their arid provinces. Even today, over 30,000 kanats still operate in Iran, some dating back 3,000 years, testaments to their enduring design. What's often overlooked is how kanats shaped societies. Unlike centralized water systems controlled by rulers, these were community projects maintained by villages through collective labor. The equitable distribution of water fostered cooperation rather than conflict, with strict codes ensuring fair access. In a way, kanats didn't just irrigate crops, they cultivated civilization itself. Modern engineers now study them as models of sustainable water management, proving that ancient solutions can outlast empires. From the date palms of Persia to the apricot orchards of Xinjiang, these hidden channels didn't just quench thirst, they wrote the blueprint for life in the world's harshest landscapes. Imagine a sleek, deadly vessel slicing through the Aegean waves at 14 knots faster than any pirate ship or merchant galley. This was the Greek Trireme, the ultimate naval weapon of its time, a floating masterpiece of speed and precision that turned the Mediterranean into a Greek-dominated arena. Its secret, 3 tiers of rowers, 170 men in perfect sync, powering a hull so light it could practically skim across the water's surface. Unlike bulky cargo ships, the Trireme sacrificed everything for velocity and agility, with a bronze-clad ram at the prow ready to splinter enemy hulls in a single, devastating strike. What set the Trireme apart wasn't just its manpower, but its ingenious design. The rowers sat staggered in vertical banks, Thalamites at the bottom, Zygites in the middle, and Thranites at the top, each group pulling oars of different lengths to maximize efficiency without tangling. A skilled kelusts or rowing master kept time with rhythmic calls or flute melodies, transforming chaotic motion into a single, fluid force. The result: a ship that could accelerate from standstill to full speed in under 30 seconds, execute hairpin turns, or reverse direction almost instantly. In battle, this meant outmaneuvering opponents with the grace of a dancer, dodging rams while lining up the perfect counterattack. The Trireme's impact reshaped history. At Salamis in 480 BC, 300 Greek triremes lured Persia's heavier fleet into narrow straits, where their agility turned the tide against overwhelming odds. Athens built its maritime empire on these ships, using them to patrol trade routes, suppress rebellions, and project power across the Aegean. but their influence extended beyond war. Triremes became floating classrooms of democracy, each vessel crewed by citizens from all social classes, rowing side by side. Even Socrates served as a hoplite aboard one during the Peloponnesian War. Yet the trireme's brilliance came with vulnerabilities. Its lightweight hull couldn't withstand rough seas, limiting campaigns to summer months, and those 170 rowers. They required constant training, fresh water, and provisions, logistical nightmares that drained city-state treasuries. By the time Rome rose, more durable quinquiremes had replaced them. But the trireme's legacy endures in unexpected ways. Modern rowing shells borrow its staggered seating concept, while naval strategists still study salamas as a masterclass in tactical ingenuity. From the timber shipyards of Corinth to the reconstructed Olympias sailing today, the trireme remains a testament to one timeless truth. In exploration and conquest, speed isn't just an advantage, it's a revolution. The wheelbarrow might seem like a humble tool today, but in ancient China, it was nothing short of a revolution on one wheel. Picture a single laborer moving hundreds of pounds of soil, bricks, or crops, tasks that would normally require multiple workers or even draft animals. This simple contraption, likely invented during the Han Dynasty around the 2nd century BC, turned back-breaking labor into manageable work, reshaping construction, agriculture, and trade across the empire. What made the Chinese wheelbarrow so ingenious was its balance. Unlike later European versions with a wheel centered between two handles, early models featured a single, massive wheel at the front, carrying most of the load while the operator merely guided and stabilized it. Some designs even included sails to harness wind power on flat terrain, an ancient precursor to engine-assisted transport. Farmers could haul triple their weight in harvested rice, while builders transported stones for the Great Wall with startling efficiency. The wheelbarrow became so vital that military strategist Zhu Liang reportedly modified them into mobile barricades called wooden oxen to supply troops during campaigns. But the real magic lay in its adaptability. In muddy rice paddies, wide wooden wheels prevented sinking. Along narrow mountain paths, balanced loads allowed one person to navigate treacherous turns where carts would fail. Some versions even doubled as makeshift river ferries, their buoyant wooden frames floating goods across shallow waters. This wasn't just a tool, it was a Swiss Army knife of ancient logistics, solving problems no one knew could be streamlined. The wheelbarrow's spread was slow but unstoppable. By the Middle Ages, variations reached Europe via Silk Road trade, though they lacked the elegance of their Chinese predecessors. Yet the impact was universal. From quarrying cathedrals to tending medieval vineyards, humanity's relationship with heavy lifting changed forever. Modern robotics engineers still study its weight distribution principles for exoskeletons and drones, proving that even the simplest designs can carry the weight of progress. From the terraced fields of Sichuan to modern construction sites, the wheelbarrow didn't just move dirt, it moved civilization forward, one load at a time. Rising 350 feet above the bustling port of Alexandria, the Pharos wasn't just a tower, it was a revolutionary promise etched in stone and flame. Picture a colossal beacon visible 30 miles out to sea, its polished bronze mirrors amplifying a massive fire into a guiding star for ships navigating the treacherous Nile Delta. Built around 280 BC under Ptolemaic rule, this marvel didn't just warn of hazards, it transformed nighttime sailing from a gamble into a calculated endeavor. The genius of its design lay in the details. An interior spiral ramp allowed donkeys to haul firewood to the summit, while an ingenious mirror system, possibly using early lenses or polished metal, projected light far beyond ordinary torches. For the first time in history, sailors could approach a foreign harbor after sunset, their cargo and crews safeguarded by human ingenuity, but the Pharaoh's impact extended far beyond its immediate glow. Its very existence signaled a paradigm shift in maritime culture. Previously, coastal traders hugged shorelines, terrified of veering into unseen reefs. Now, captains could strike out across open water with unprecedented confidence, knowing reliable markers awaited them. The lighthouse became a blueprint for ports worldwide, inspiring Roman builders to erect towers at Ostia and Dover, while Arab engineers later refined the designs with minaret-like structures dotting the Indian Ocean trade routes. Even the word pharaology, the study of lighthouses, traces back to Alexandria's towering achievement. What's often overlooked is how lighthouses democratized exploration. By reducing reliance on local pilots who knew hidden dangers, they empowered foreign merchants to venture farther independently. The Pharos itself became a cultural touchstone, appearing on coins from Britain to Persia, a universal symbol of safe passage. Modern satellite navigation might seem worlds apart, but the principle remains identical. Reliable guidance unlocks new horizons. Today, automated beacons still stand sentinel over rocky coasts, their rhythmic flashes carrying forward an ancient legacy that sometimes the brightest innovations aren't just about light, but about trust forged in stone and fire. Galloping across the steppe at breakneck speed, a lone rider clutches a sealed message, his horse's hooves kicking up dust as he races toward a distant outpost. But here's the twist: he won't deliver it himself. Instead, he'll pass it to a fresh courier waiting with a rested horse, who will then sprint to the next station. This was the postal relay system, an ancient superhighway of information that turned empires into tightly knit networks. Picture the Mongol Empire at its height, stretching from the Pacific to the Black Sea, a territory so vast it could take years to cross on foot. Yet urgent commands from Kublai Khan's court could reach the farthest provinces in weeks, thanks to a meticulously organized chain of relay stations spaced just 20 miles apart. The genius of this system lay in its division of labor. Instead of exhausting a single messenger and horse over thousands of miles, each rider covered only a short stretch at maximum speed before passing the baton. The Mongols called these stations yam, where fresh mounts, food, and even replacement riders stood ready around the clock. A message could travel up to 200 miles in a single day, a pace that wouldn't be matched until the Pony Express millennia later. But the real brilliance was in the infrastructure. Stations were stocked with spare horses, fodder, and armed guards to protect against bandits, creating a seamless flow of communication across deserts and mountain ranges. The Romans had their own version, the Cursus Publicus, a state-run courier network that bound their empire together. Emperors like Augustus used it to monitor provincial governors, while merchants paid handsomely to piggyback commercial updates onto official dispatches. Unlike the Mongol system focused on speed, Roman relays prioritized reliability, with way stations offering lodging and repairs for wheeled vehicles carrying heavier cargo. Together, these systems formed the nervous system of pre-industrial superpowers, proving that control wasn't just about armies, it was about information moving faster than rebellion could spread. What's often overlooked is how these networks doubled as early intelligence hubs. Mongol riders didn't just carry orders, they gathered rumors, weather reports, and even samples of unfamiliar plants for imperial scholars. Roman couriers functioned as the ancient equivalent of wiretaps, allowing emperors to intercept suspicious correspondence. The relay system didn't just transmit messages, it became the eyes and ears of empires, turning geographical vastness from a weakness into a strength. The legacy of these networks echoes in surprising ways. Modern logistics companies use similar hub and spoke models for package delivery, while emergency services still rely on relay principles during disasters when digital systems fail. From the Silk Road to the information superhighway, the core idea remains unchanged. Speed isn't just about moving fast, it's about knowing when to pass the baton. And in that way, these ancient postal systems didn't just deliver messages, they delivered the future. High above raging Andean rivers, where even the bravest traveler might hesitate, the Inca wove pathways of grass strong enough to carry armies, suspension bridges that defied gravity and logic. Picture a chasm 200 feet wide, spanned by nothing more than braided iku grass ropes as thick as a man's torso, with a narrow walkway of wooden planks swaying in the mountain wind. These weren't just crossings, they were feats of communal engineering, rebuilt annually by villagers working together to twist over 20,000 feet of rope by hand. The Quetzalcoatl Bridge, still reconstructed using ancient techniques today, hangs 400 feet above the Apurimac River, a living testament to Inca ingenuity. What made these bridges revolutionary was their adaptability to terrain that defeated other technologies. Unlike Roman stone arches requiring stable foundations, suspension bridges could leap across sheer gorges where no pillar could stand. The secret lay in their tension-based design. Anchor stones weighing tons held the cables taut, while the bridge's slight curve absorbed the energy of wind and footsteps. When Spanish conquistadors first saw them, they assumed these swaying structures were traps until watching llama caravans cross effortlessly, carrying goods from the Amazon to the Pacific. Half a world away, ancient China developed its own versions using iron chains instead of fiber. The Anlan Bridge in Sichuan, first built over 2,000 years ago, linked isolated mountain communities with a design so durable it survived earthquakes. Chinese engineers pioneered chain-making techniques, interlocking metal loops that distributed weight evenly, a principle still used in modern suspension bridges like San Francisco's Golden Gate. The true impact of these bridges wasn't just in their construction, but in what they connected. Inca runners bearing quipu messages could traverse the empire's fractured topography at astonishing speeds, while Chinese chain bridges enabled tea and silk to flow along the southern Silk Road. Both cultures understood something profound. To unite a landscape, you don't fight its cliffs and rivers, you dance with them. Today's engineers still study these ancient designs for their blend of flexibility and strength, proving that sometimes the most enduring solutions aren't rigid but resilient. Picture a fisherman on the misty rivers of ancient Wales, balancing effortlessly in a vessel that looks more like a giant bowl than a boat. This is the Coracle, one of history's most deceptively simple watercraft. Crafted from woven willow branches and animal hides waterproofed with tar or fat, these circular boats were so lightweight a single person could carry one on their back. Yet their unassuming design masked extraordinary utility, allowing generations of Celts to harvest salmon from treacherous currents or cross flooded plains where larger boats would founder. The Coracle's brilliance lay in its adaptability. Unlike rigid wooden boats, its flexible frame could absorb the shock of rocks and rapids, bouncing off obstacles like a rubber ball. The round shape, often compared to a walnut shell, made it remarkably stable. Even capsizing required effort, as the buoyant design naturally righted itself. Fishermen perfected a unique paddling technique, using a single oar in a figure-8 motion that allowed them to spin on a dime or hold position against strong flows. This wasn't just transportation, it was a dance with the water, a testament to how form could follow function in the most elegant ways. What's astonishing is how widespread these vessels became. From the salmon-rich streams of Scotland to the marshy fens of East Anglia, variations of the Coracle emerged to suit local conditions. Irish versions used stretched cowhide, while some Welsh models incorporated layers of wool for insulation against icy waters. Even Julius Caesar noted their use during his British campaigns, marveling at how quickly native warriors could deploy them for river crossings. The Coracle's portability made it indispensable. Shepherds carried collapsed frames to ford rivers while tending flocks, and monks used them to reach island monasteries. But perhaps the most enduring legacy of the Coracle is its sustainability. Built entirely from biodegradable materials, it left no trace when abandoned, unlike the sunken shipwrecks that litter ocean floors. Modern eco-boat designers now look to these ancient principles, experimenting with organic composites and collapsible frames. The same qualities that made coracles perfect for 6th century fishermen, lightweight, easy repair, and minimal environmental impact, are precisely what 21st century explorers seek in green watercraft. From Celtic myths of salmon wisdom to the quiet routines of riverside villages, the Coracle didn't just carry people. It carried traditions, livelihoods, and a profound understanding of working with nature rather than against it. In a world obsessed with speed and scale, this humble vessel reminds us that sometimes the most revolutionary technologies are the ones that leave the lightest footprint. The yoke might look like nothing more than a curved wooden beam, but this unassuming device quietly rewrote the rules of agriculture and transportation across the ancient world. Picture a farmer in Mesopotamia around 3000 BC, struggling to drag a plow through sun-baked earth by hand, back bent, progress agonizingly slow. Now imagine that same farmer guiding a pair of oxen, their massive shoulders strapped to a padded yoke that multiplies their strength tenfold. Suddenly, fields that took weeks to till could be prepared in days, turning subsistence farming into surplus production. This was the quiet revolution that fed empires. What made the yoke so transformative was its elegant distribution of force. Unlike earlier harnesses that pressed against animals' throats, choking them if they pulled too hard, the yoke rested across the shoulders, allowing oxen to use their full strength without suffocating. Early versions were simple forked branches shaped to fit an animal's neck, but over time, cultures from China to Scandinavia refined them with padded collars and adjustable straps. The difference was staggering. A single ox team could pull loads exceeding 1 ton, transforming how goods moved across landscapes. Roman merchants hauled amphorae of olive oil from Spain to Germany on wagons drawn by yoked oxen, while Chinese farmers plowed terraced hillsides too steep for human labor alone. But the yoke's impact extended far beyond fields and freight. By making animal power reliably accessible, it reshaped entire economies. Villages could now transport grain to centralized storage, leading to the first true cities. Armies marched with supply wagons that kept soldiers fed during prolonged campaigns. Alexander's conquests depended as much on yoked ox teams as on his cavalry. Even monumental architecture like Egypt's pyramids relied on yoked animals to drag stone blocks from quarries to construction sites. This wasn't just a tool, it was the engine behind civilization's leap forward. What's often overlooked is how the yoke reflected cultural values. In India, decorated yokes became ritual objects for temple carts during festivals, while Celtic designs incorporated intricate carvings of protective symbols. The very word yoke entered languages worldwide as a metaphor for connection. Think of conjugal, from the Latin for joined under a yoke. Modern engineers still study its ergonomic principles when designing harnesses for service animals, proving that the best solutions often emerge from observing nature's design. From the rice paddies of the Yangtze to the wheat fields of Gaul, this simple wooden bar didn't just harness animals, it harnessed human potential, turning the dream of abundance into tangible reality. And in that way, the yoke did more than pull loads. It pulled humanity into a new era of possibility. Picture a caravan pausing in the scorching Mesopotamian desert, where the sun bleaches everything into blinding whiteness. A trader pulls out a small stone disc marked with precise lines, angling it carefully until the shadow cast by its central gnomon touches a specific groove. In that moment, time itself becomes visible, not as an abstract concept, but as a tangible measurement that could mean the difference between reaching an oasis before dark or perishing in the night. This was the portable sundial, an ancient explorer's secret weapon against the relentless march of daylight. While sundials might seem like stationary garden ornaments today, their travel-friendly versions were once as essential as a compass or map. The Greeks perfected compact, folding designs small enough to tuck into a satchel, while Roman soldiers carried bronze pocket sundials the size of a modern watch. These weren't just timekeepers, they were logistical tools that synchronized entire journeys. Knowing the hour allowed travelers to calculate how far they could push before sunset, when to expect tidal changes near coastal routes, or precisely when to meet guides at predetermined locations. The genius of these devices lay in their adaptability. Some featured adjustable gnomons that could be tilted to match the user's latitude, while others had rotating discs compensating for seasonal sun variations. Arab scholars later enhanced them with compasses, creating hybrid instruments that tracked both time and direction, a medieval GPS for desert crossings. Imagine a Silk Road merchant coordinating with distant partners by saying, "Meet where the shadow falls at the 3rd hour past noon," turning sunlight into a universal scheduling system. What's often overlooked is how sundials shaped human perception of time itself. Before mechanical clocks, people thought in temporal hours, daylight divided into 12 equal parts that lengthened or shortened with the seasons. Sundials taught travelers to read the sun's arc like a cosmic clock face, transforming celestial motion into actionable knowledge. Even today, the principle lives on in aviation's solar noon calculations and survival training's shadow stick methods. From the stone circles of Bronze Age Britain to the exquisite ivory sundials of Renaissance explorers, these silent timekeepers didn't just mark hours, they measured humanity's growing mastery over the rhythms of the natural world. And for ancient travelers, that understanding was more precious than gold. Stacked shoulder to shoulder in the holds of Phoenician merchant ships, Roman grain freighters, and Greek trading vessels, the humble amphora was the shipping container of the ancient world, a ceramic workhorse that carried civilizations on its curved shoulders. Picture these distinctive two-handled jars, their pointed bases buried in ships' ballast sand to prevent shifting during storms, each one holding up to 25 liters of precious olive oil, wine, or grain. Their standardized shapes, whether the slender Greek style or the rounder Roman variant, weren't just aesthetic choices, they were feats of logistical genius. Like modern pallets or intermodal containers, amphorae could be stacked in tight, interlocking rows, turning chaotic cargo holds into models of efficiency. A single shipwreck off the coast of Italy, the Madrag de Genes, held over 6,000 amphorae, proof of how these vessels fueled economies across 3 continents. What made the amphora revolutionary wasn't just its design, but its role as an early global trademark. Potters from Spain to Syria stamped their wares with seals indicating origin, contents, and even quality grades, an ancient precursor to modern barcoding. Athenian olive oil amphorae bore the owl of Athena, a symbol so trusted it commanded premium prices in Egypt and the Black Sea. The Romans took standardization further, decreeing exact capacities for different goods, so merchants could calculate tariffs and values at a glance. This wasn't just pottery, it was a transparent, trust-building system that greased the wheels of Mediterranean commerce for over 2 millennia. The Amphora's secret weapon was its dual-purpose nature. After delivering wine to a Roman villa, empty jars became construction materials crushed into cement aggregate, repurposed as drain pipes, or even buried as makeshift cisterns. Archaeologists now study these fragments like ancient spreadsheets, tracing trade routes through chemical analysis of clay residues. A single amphora shard found in Britain might reveal that its contents came from a North African olive grove, passed through a Cretan middleman, and sailed aboard a Gaulish trader before reaching Londinium's markets. But perhaps the most surprising legacy lies in how these ancient containers shaped modern logistics. The same principles of stackability, durability, and standardization reappear in everything from whiskey barrels to shipping containers. Even today's bulk liquid transport systems owe a debt to the Amphora's basic blueprint, proof that some innovations don't fade away, they simply evolve. From the vineyards of Pompeii to the docks of ancient Alexandria, these unassuming jars did more than carry goods, they carried the very idea of global trade, one carefully stacked row at a time. Across the endless dunes of the Taklamakan Desert, a rhythmic sound echoed, the steady plod of hundreds of camel hooves, the creak of laden saddles, and the murmur of traders speaking a dozen languages. This was the lifeblood of the Silk Road, the caravan, a rolling marketplace and cultural crossroads where safety lay in numbers. Picture a line of Bactrian camels stretching to the horizon, each animal carrying 400 pounds of silk, spices, or jade, their double humps swaying like metronomes against the backdrop of shifting sands. These weren't just supply chains, they were nomadic cities that moved at the pace of trust, connecting Zion to Antioch through shared hardship and mutual profit. What made caravans revolutionary wasn't just their scale, but their social engineering. A single caravan might include Persian rug merchants, Tibetan horsemen, Nestorian Christian missionaries, and Central Asian spice traders, all bound by unspoken rules of the road. Scouts rode ahead to spot bandit ambushes, while medics treated heatstroke with herbal remedies passed down from Sogdian healers. At night, guards armed with composite bows kept watch as travelers exchanged stories under stars that guided them toward the next oasis. The real genius lay in their diversity. A caravan's strength came from pooling knowledge where to find water, which tribal leaders demanded bribes, how to navigate sandstorms that could erase trails in minutes. The logistics were staggering. A medium-sized caravan of 500 camels required 50,000 pounds of fodder and 30,000 gallons of water for a single month's journey. Yet the system worked so well that Chinese Tang dynasty records describe caravans arriving with precision, their goods, from Samarkandi melons to Byzantine glassware, perfectly preserved in camel hair wrappings. Some routes became so established that way stations evolved into cities like Palmyra and Kashgar, where caravanserais offered not just rest but currency exchange, repair workshops, and even postal services. But the cargo that mattered most wasn't silk or gold, it was ideas. Along these dusty trails, Buddhism traveled from India to China, paper-making techniques spread westward, and mathematical concepts like the number zero migrated from Hindu scholars to Arab mathematicians. A single caravan could carry Persian astronomical charts, Greek medical texts, and Chinese gunpowder recipes in its saddlebags, a mobile university shaping civilizations. Even languages blended. The word caravan itself comes from the Persian karwan, absorbed into dozens of tongues along the trade routes. The legacy of caravans lives on in surprising ways. Modern long-haul truckers follow similar rhythms, stopping at highway hubs that mirror ancient caravanserais. The concept of shared risk logistics, spreading goods across multiple vehicles to limit loss, remains fundamental to global shipping. And perhaps most profoundly, the caravan model proved that the most dangerous journeys could become routine through cooperation, turning the Silk Road not just into a path for commerce, but a cradle of globalization itself. From the whispers of bartered secrets to the thunder of hooves on stone, these traveling communities didn't just move goods, they moved history forward, one shared step at a time. Unrolling a Portolan chart on a sunlit Venetian dock, a medieval sea captain could suddenly see the world in a way no one had before, not as vague abstractions, but as a practical guide to survival. These weren't maps in the traditional sense, they were dense webs of crisscrossing lines radiating from compass roses, with coastlines drawn in startling accuracy and harbors marked by tiny painted towers. Born in the 13th century, likely in Genoa or Majorca, Portolan charts turned the Mediterranean from a mystery into a chessboard, where every move could be calculated and every risk assessed. The brilliance of these charts lay in their precision. Unlike earlier Mappa Mundi that mixed geography with mythology, Portolan makers worked from first-hand sailing experience, plotting distances between ports based on actual travel times. Room-lined straight paths following compass bearings fanned out like spokes, allowing navigators to plot courses simply by aligning a ruler between 2 points. Names of ports crowded the margins in bold red or black script, with dangerous shoals marked by ominous crosses. A sailor could trace a route from Barcelona to Constantinople without ever leaving sight of land, knowing exactly where to find fresh water or avoid pirate coves. What made these charts revolutionary wasn't just their detail, but their democratization of knowledge. Previously, navigation relied heavily on oral tradition, secrets passed from pilot to apprentice. Now, critical information was fixed on vellum, reproducible and shareable. The Cortona chart, one of the oldest surviving examples from around 1300, shows the entire Mediterranean with an error margin of less than 50 miles, a staggering feat for the era. Venetian merchants could plan trade routes months in advance, while crusaders used them to coordinate naval campaigns across the Levant. Yet the real magic was in the chart's flexibility. As new discoveries reached Europe's Atlantic islands, African coast cartographers updated existing templates, stitching together a growing understanding of the world. The famous Catalan Atlas of 1375 incorporated Marco Polo's accounts of Asia, blending practical navigation with glimpses of distant lands. These weren't static documents, they were living records of exploration, evolving with each returning ship's log. Modern navigation owes more to Portolan charts than we realize. The Mercator projection later popularized their room-line concept, while today's nautical charts still prioritize coastal details and hazards above inland features. From the ink-stained workshops of medieval Mallorca to the GPS devices on modern yachts, this was the moment when maps stopped being about storytelling and started being about strategy. Every bold line and cramped harbor name whispered the same promise. The sea was no longer a barrier but a highway. The battlefield trembled as a line of Scythe chariots surged forward, their wheel-mounted blades whirling like the teeth of some monstrous harvester. This wasn't just a weapon, it was psychological warfare on wheels, designed to slice through enemy ranks with brutal efficiency. Originating in Persia around the 6th century BC, these nightmare vehicles took the chariot's speed and fused it with sheer terror. Imagine the horror of infantrymen seeing a chariot bearing down, knowing its spinning blades could sever legs before they even felt the cut. King Cyrus the Great reportedly deployed them against Lydia's forces, their lethality turning the tide in chaotic melees where fear spread faster than the chariots themselves. What set Scythe chariots apart wasn't just their gruesome design, but their strategic versatility. The blades weren't random additions, they were meticulously positioned. Curved sickles extended horizontally from the axles, while some versions added vertical blades near the chariot's sides, creating a deadly radius no soldier could safely approach. Horses wore armored frontlets to shield them from stray arrows, ensuring they wouldn't falter before reaching enemy lines. The charioteer's role demanded nerves of steel, charged straight into densely packed formations, trusting momentum and chaos to do the rest. When it worked, the effect was devastating. At the Battle of Gaugamela, Persian Scythe chariots aimed to disrupt Alexander the Great's phalanxes, though the Macedonians famously countered by opening ranks to let them pass harmlessly before swarming the drivers. Yet the Scythe chariot's legacy extends beyond its battlefield successes and failures. It represented a radical rethinking of mobility itself, proof that movement could be weaponized. Later cultures adapted the concept. Celtic chariots added iron spikes to their wheels, while Indian war carts in the Mahabharata epics describe similar bladed horrors. Even beyond warfare, the idea of integrating tools into moving platforms influenced later innovations like horse-drawn reapers in agriculture. The chariot wasn't just carrying warriors anymore, it had become a machine with a singular, terrifying purpose. What's often overlooked is how these chariots reflected the societies that built them. Persian versions emphasized shock value, their blades exaggerated for psychological impact. Greek historians like Xenophon described them as much for their dreadful spectacle as for their tactical use. Meanwhile, Indian texts detail chariots with multiple rotating blades, suggesting an almost theatrical approach to war's brutality. This wasn't just engineering, it was performance art designed to paralyze opponents with dread before the first strike landed. The Scythe chariot's heyday faded as cavalry tactics evolved, but its influence lingers in unexpected ways. Modern military vehicles borrow its core philosophy, maximizing a platform's offensive potential from tanks with mounted machine guns to drone swarms designed to overwhelm defenses. And perhaps that's the most enduring lesson. Technology doesn't just change how we move, it changes how we fight, how we intimidate, and ultimately, how we reimagine the boundaries of what's possible. From the dust of ancient battlefields to the cutting edge of combat engineering, the Scythe chariot remains a chilling reminder that innovation isn't always peaceful, but it's always transformative. The echoes of ancient travel technologies aren't confined to history books, they hum beneath the surface of our modern world, hidden in plain sight, that smartphone guiding you through traffic. Its GPS relies on the same celestial principles sailors used with astrolabes 2,000 years ago, triangulating position from satellites instead of stars. The highways stretching across continents, they follow the exact same engineering logic as Roman roads: layered foundations, strategic drainage, and relentless directness, just paved with asphalt instead of stone. Even the sleek cargo ships crisscrossing oceans today owe their hull designs to Phoenician shipwrights who first mastered the art of overlapping planks. The past didn't fade away, it simply upgraded its materials. Consider the humble backpack you might take hiking. Its ergonomic straps distribute weight much like a camel saddle's wraparound design, sparing your shoulders just as those ancient saddles spared dromedaries' backs. Or think about airport runways, modern descendants of the Inca's mountain staircases, engineered to conquer unforgiving terrain with precision. The lateen sail's aerodynamic genius lives on in wind turbine blades, while the Postal relay system's hub and spoke model powers everything from Amazon deliveries to emergency response networks. These aren't coincidences, they're proof that great solutions transcend their eras. What's truly remarkable is how these ancient innovations address timeless human needs: safety, speed, connection. The lighthouse's promise of safe harbor evolved into radar and sonar, just as the Yoke's efficient force distribution inspired modern ergonomic tools. Even the Coracle's lightweight portability finds its echo in today's foldable kayaks and inflatable rafts. The through line is clear. Whether you're a Silk Road merchant plotting a caravan route or a commuter checking transit apps, the core challenges of travel remain strikingly similar. Perhaps the most profound legacy lies in the mindset these technologies represent. Ancient explorers didn't just adapt to their environments, they reshaped them, turning obstacles into opportunities. The Kanat System's underground canals inspire contemporary water conservation projects in drought-prone regions, while the suspension bridges tension principles guide skyscraper construction. Every time engineers face a seemingly insurmountable problem, they're standing on the shoulders of those first innovators who looked at a desert, a mountain, or a stormy sea and asked, "How can we make this passable?" This continuity matters because it reminds us that exploration isn't just about distance, it's about perspective. The same inventive spirit that carved steps into Andean cliffs now designs Mars rovers, and the collaborative ethos behind caravanserais fuels today's global supply chains. When you board a train or tap a ride-share app, you're participating in a story that began with reed boats and stone-paved paths. The tools have changed, but the essence remains. Every journey, ancient or modern, is a testament to humanity's restless drive to push boundaries, share knowledge, and connect. And that's the most enduring technology of all. From reed boats gliding down the Nile to Roman couriers racing along stone highways, every ancient travel innovation tells the same profound truth: humanity's greatest journeys begin with a single ingenious solution. These weren't just tools for moving people or goods. They were the physical manifestations of curiosity itself, each breakthrough rewriting the rules of what was possible. Consider how the humble camel saddle didn't merely carry salt across the Sahara. It dissolved the desert's isolating power, weaving together empires separated by seas of sand. Or how the Astrolabe transformed the night sky from a tapestry of myths into a celestial roadmap, turning aimless drifting into calculated navigation. Every technology on our list shares this dual legacy: practical problem-solving paired with world-altering consequences. What's remarkable is how these ancient solutions continue to whisper to modern engineers. The suspension bridges of the Inca, swaying gracefully over Andean chasms, inspired the carbon fiber cables of today's longest spans. Viking longships, with their lightweight flexibility, find their spiritual successors in America's cup racing yachts. Even the Postal relay system's core philosophy, switching fresh carriers at intervals, lives on in our digital age, where data packets hop between servers along fiber optic highways. This isn't just historical coincidence, it's proof that the fundamental challenges of exploration transcend time. Whether you're a Phoenician trader plotting a course by the stars or a SpaceX engineer calculating orbital trajectories, you're solving variations of the same eternal equation: how to move farther, faster, and more reliably through unforgiving environments. As we stand on the brink of new frontiers, hyperloops threading through continents, rockets landing on Mars, we do well to remember the lessons encoded in these ancient tools. The Yoke taught us that efficiency comes from working with nature's design, not against it. The Kanat System showed how sustainability isn't modern activism, but survival wisdom passed down through millennia. And the Silk Road caravans demonstrated that the most perilous journeys become routine through shared knowledge and collective effort. Our ancestors didn't have silicon chips or hydrogen fuel cells, but they possessed something equally powerful: the willingness to look at a seemingly insurmountable barrier and ask, what if we tried this? So the next time you glance at your GPS or board a high-speed train, take a moment to trace those technologies back to their origins. Behind every modern convenience lies the ghost of an ancient breakthrough, some forgotten artisan's eureka, a moment that changed how we move through the world. History's greatest explorers didn't just discover new lands, they discovered new ways of thinking, proving that innovation isn't about the resources you have, but the imagination you wield. And that's a journey that never truly ends.